My name is Maurice Show, and this is JuJu's Closing the Gap show. We all know how important appreciation is in our lives, yet sometimes we might not express it correctly or forget to do it altogether. My goal with this show is to introduce you to business leaders, experts, and innovators who have used appreciation to build strong relationships which have allowed them to achieve their dreams and their goals. My guest today is Jodie Brenton. She is the CEO of Here to Help, previously also known as Life Resolutions. Jodie has been changing the face of the private practice psychology industry for over 16 years now. From humble beginnings in a one-room practice here in Melbourne to growing to the largest network of private practice psychologists in Australia, Jodie has seen it all. From dealing with the stigma associated to mental health, with helping psychologists build their businesses from the ground up, she has seen a whole range of problems. Her goal is to help 1 million Australians, and right now she's doing that by focusing on the corporate world and the EAP sector to help address the massive issue of work-related stress and mental health issues. Jodie, thank you for joining us on Closing the Gap.
You're welcome, lovely to be here.
Awesome. So we've got a lot to cover today. We'll see what we can fit in.
Great.
But I want to start with something really easy. Who was the last person you really appreciated and what for?
Okay. I think for me, there's appreciations on a daily basis. Appreciation is no longer a buzzword as it used to be. Having been in business and being self-employed for 30 plus years now, industry and attitude towards people and our behaviour within business has come a long way to be more of an environment, one that looks after its people rather than its profit. And that is the changing face, and appreciation is a key word that wraps around that. For me, there's an appreciation on a daily basis. So if I shared with you my experience today, is I spent the last 48 hours with a number of, or certainly one in particular major EAP company. And that EAP company has, through their own experiences, created thoughtfulness and opportunities to look at how to care for our people within the work environment into the future. And of course, not only is it about people and their behaviour, but it's about technology and the interaction with that. And I was very appreciative of the great ideas that Gavin Kelso from Hunterlink shared with me from his years of experience of what he's been bringing to the table about us talking about the future on this exact matter.
Awesome. Well, on that note, before we go any further, I just want to sort of set the tone and put some context. When I say appreciation, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Thankfulness and gratefulness. So a true, honest, heartfelt respect and acknowledgement to somebody's engagement and interaction with me or my company or my people on a daily basis.
Awesome. Well, I think that helps everyone who's watching this contextualize it and understand where we're going to go from here. Now, before we dive into your personal history with appreciation and your work as well, I want to ask a bit of a more fun question is, imagine you had the power to make anyone a master at appreciation, right? Just turn a switch and all of a sudden he can appreciate like a god. Who would that be, and could you give us perhaps a celebrity or someone everybody would know, and why?
Okay, so the obvious answer might be in this economy, maybe Trump, as an example. I think when you feel the emotion of appreciation, anything is difficult in a negative way to interact with that at the same time. So I believe truly anybody that has power over people and are the gatekeepers of the outcomes of people's existence. Politicians come to mind for that.
That's funny. When I was writing that question, that's exactly the person I was thinking of. So that's great. All right, so let's dive into a bit your history, and I guess let's go back to the very beginning. When was the first time that you realized, hey, appreciation is really important to me and to my relationships and to the people around me?
Not soon enough. So It's without a doubt, having been self-employed for such a long time and having been on the journey of the evolution of old style business to more modern thinking, where we went from profit to people. Not soon enough, otherwise we would have been more about people than profit a long time ago.
Yeah, interesting. Was there a specific tipping point of some sort, like a moment where there was a light bulb moment, or was it more of a gradual progress where at some point you went, oh man?
We're not all born as a Dalai Lama, so everything that we have, right, is a gradual experience about how we evolve. So for me, I think it's a progression of the yin and the yang. So having very negative experiences with people that I believe that I have done the right things by and not feeling appreciated back, versus having people that I should have showed more appreciation to expressing to me that it wasn't enough. So when you experience those two sides, you get a chance to see the contrast and start to find a balance about who you are and who you want to be.
That's really a great answer. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are always looking for, is that light bulb moment or that epiphany or that silver bullet that might fix something. But life is just messier than that. It doesn't happen that way, and sometimes it's just a gradual process. And in my personal journey with appreciation, it has taken a while. I had my brother who inspired me to start all of this, but it was a gradual process, and I'm still learning. I'm still figuring things out. So I very much agree with that.
I agree with that any, even from a concept or a seed of any business, if it actually comes from an element of that true heart, that appreciation, and I know that JuJu, and I have great respect for your company and where it comes from, if you start with that, I don't believe applying all the right elements to support that can go wrong. If you start from the right place, you should get the right outcomes.
I think that's true. Now, sort of going onto the positive, if you think back, and this could be personal, it could be work related, it's really up to you. One has been one of the times, and it could have been a day, it could have been a week, it could have been one specific moment that you've felt most appreciated, that you just felt showered in love, and what did that person do, and what was it all about?
Does it matter work or personal environment?
Not at all.
Not at all. Your wedding day, you certainly feel that way.
Yeah.
If I put, I think amongst the ones we love, we feel that regularly. I hope we do. If not, try and find that space. It is funny. Appreciation comes from a collection of moments that you experience from people that help you evolve your own heart and your own soul. So they're a collective for me, and the most times that I found the greatest appreciation is when someone's had the courage to do something for me or with me outside of their comfort zone because they want to support me. And without the words, that to me is a sign of appreciation.
Absolutely. I think it's we often think of it as a thank you, but there's so many ways to show appreciation, and those kind gestures are extremely important as well. Now, before we move on to your work and your experiences around appreciation there, can you share with people what you think the biggest mistake is most people make when trying to express their appreciation?
What's the biggest mistake someone makes when they're trying to show their appreciation? I wonder if there is one, right? So if you're trying to express your appreciation to somebody, no matter how much you fumble it, I don't think you can. I think it's how the person receives it. But if I spoke to anybody about the most effective way, is only to be genuine and speak from the heart. And that penetrates all things. When you're genuine, people see that in its moment.
Absolutely. I think that intention and the purity, and I always think of dogs when I think about this, because for some reason I think it's maybe in their DNA that they just can't be non-genuine, and when you get home they just love you, and you might in the back of your mind even be thinking it's just because I feed you, but you can't get over the fact that you just feel that. And I think it's the same thing with people. Like, we can really sense it when there's that genuine approach.
Yeah, it's got to be real. And I think today's life and the movement of today, like we talk about from profit to people, I think genuine is one of the key words. People don't want to work in environments with people that aren't.
Absolutely. So, shared a bit of your background around appreciation, where it comes from. Did you have any experiences in your childhood or perhaps with your family directly that have influenced your journey of appreciation, perhaps making it harder to realize that appreciation was important, or really telling you that it was an important part of life?
When you grow up in when you grow up in Australia as somebody that grew up in the 70s, you appreciated a hot meal on the table. You appreciated that your parents were happy for you just to get home before the street lights on. And as an adult, you appreciated that you didn't carry a mobile phone around. When you're a child, you didn't think those things. And when you're a child, it's hard to find appreciation because you're often not mature enough in your understanding of the bigger picture. But my personal experience was I come from a family of empathetic souls that know how to express love. So when you're in that environment, there's naturally a lot of appreciation. So that was a good feeder for me, and that set the precedent around who I am, why I started a business that wanted to support the emotional well-being of our society, even though I'm not a psychologist, though I'm working in the psychology industry, and I care genuinely about the well-being of people. And I want the world to be better, and it started for my family, and of course it expands beyond that. So the appreciation for my family has been the core of where I've come from.
Absolutely. Now, I think it's a great segue into delving into a bit more of your work. I've had the opportunity to work with you before, so I have my own answer to this question. But could you give us an example of when appreciation has been instrumental in your role as a CEO in achieving the goals of the company?
Yeah. I'll flip that. I'll show two sides to that. One has been there was a gentleman that did work for me in my organisation that had the courage to think outside the box, that had the courage to challenge me when I needed to be challenged. And what that helped me myself do within the organisation is appreciate my people more and appreciate the strength that took an individual to be able to step outside of their comfort zone, which is the example I used before. That was the experience from one side, that coming towards me. For me going outward, I think I've always in my heart of hearts had appreciation for anybody that's committed to the cause, or and it always shocks me that people follow your vision, that there's people that do get behind you and believe in what you do. And as a leader, to have people represent you in your vision and be that with you on a day-by-day basis is core in the appreciation of its longevity. And that is a wonderful thing. And I think I really learnt this the most probably, it was 15 years ago, and I was starting to employ staff. I started a company, I emptied the bins, I answered the phones. When you have your own business and you start from fresh, you do everything yourself and you grow. And I remember sitting around probably one of our first sort of major team meetings, and I said something, and a week later I kept hearing people say the same thing. And it occurred to me in that moment how powerful words are, and how people follow leaders and listen to leaders. And in that moment it dawned on me just how appreciative I was that people were listening. And I felt that in that moment that I was with the right people in the right team. And I felt gratitude and thankfulness for those people to be there with me. And some people might go to a job for a pay pack. I think these days I don't think it's that simple. I think people really look for much greater value, and appreciation is a strong part of their values that they look for on a day-by-day basis.
That's a great story. I had actually not heard that one before, so thank you for sharing that. Okay. On the other side of that same question really is, have you ever really felt the lack of appreciation? I know you've been going through your own struggles and challenges over the last couple of years. Has there been a specific point where you really felt that lack of appreciation or the effects of that on your personal self, but on the company as well?
When people do things for the wrong reasons, I feel lack of appreciation. People make mistakes. It's natural. It's actually part of growth. They're not mistakes. They're learnings. They're experiences. But it's when people have deliberately gone out of their way not to represent the values that they speak of, and that's when I felt the least appreciated in my organisation. And I believe that we as individuals all have a responsibility to one another to show that appreciation. Some people look at a business and they go, well, you need to make me feel okay or good. And I think about it separately. I don't believe a company is directly responsible for an individual's well-being and confidence. It's there to support professional growth, emotional growth, and business is not just business. We work with people, we have impacts, we have growth on a day-by-day basis. So I believe everybody needs to own it. Everybody needs to be part of the journey that a company takes and its individuals' experience within that environment and that involvement of the organisation and its people.
Yeah, it's I keep thinking about it in terms of alignment and meaning, and meaning is a very ephemeral thing. It can, what's the meaning of life? I mean, everyone has sort of their own question, but the more I've dwelled on it, relationships matter so much, because when I contribute in some way, be it when we used to work together or now, and someone tells me, hey, you did this, it really triggered this in me, or it helped me do that, all of a sudden my actions, that creates meaning. And so I do see that, and I think that alignment to just the company in terms of values, but also in terms of goals and objectives is critical.
And I think appreciation is a responsibility of all. Personally and professionally.
Absolutely. Okay. Now we've got a couple more questions around your work.
Yeah, of course.
So there are, I suppose, two sides to look at. On one side, people might say, look, appreciation is nice, but it's not, important. People will get over it if they're not appreciated in that moment. I believe that there are, however, times at which it's absolutely critical to appreciate someone for the sake of that relationship. Like if you let it go on for too long or don't express that appreciation, it can really damage the relationship. What are some situations or examples in which you think it's really important to do that? And again, it could be in personal or work-related life.
Yeah, appreciation is subjective, right? So certainly my experiences in time with working with team members, and 20 years ago we called them staff, now they're team. And I think those sort of key references are very important to how people feel. And it's subjective, because there can be a moment in time when someone really requires that appreciation from you, but you don't know it, and they're not going to tap you on the shoulder and ask you for it. So I think you need to have a combination of ways of going about it. I think there needs to be formal processes. There needs to be, if it's in a work environment, there needs to be meetings where you get the opportunity to reflect upon and share that together. You do that as in group environments where you may share with the team. An example this week, the team and I took them all out for dinner, and we had a wonderful evening together, and everyone showed their appreciation for one another by just having a nice time, by being there, by connecting. And then there is times when be switched on and be listening and observing and knowing when somebody's actually looking for that point of appreciation. And the reason it's subjective, because you don't know what people are thinking, and everybody is so different. You don't know who needs what when they need it. And this is why a work environment is not your product, it is not your service, it is your people, and knowing your people and the best of your people of when that's required. Now, I've got it wrong a million times, I'll get it wrong a million times again, but I've also got it right a million times. And I see the joy and the smiles when you share that appreciation and that thankfulness in that environment. And technology is another way to help make that streamline. Like the amount of times I've driven home at night, I've gone, wow, I really appreciated what so-and-so did today. And, you know, I should pick up the phone, but geez, I don't want to hear from the boss at 7 o'clock at night, so I'm not going to give them a call. You know, I'm not going to SMS and they're just going to find that annoying. So, you know, there's an avenue, and of course JuJu is an avenue for that, to just click, thanks very much for that today, and then get in there the next day and you kick off your day with appreciation. So finding the vehicles you implement into your business to make that formal, informal and enjoyable is important.
Great. I love that. Love that answer. Now, here's a big challenge that I'm currently facing when I'm talking to companies, and the companies and the people there are also facing this, is when I go to them to talk about appreciation and using JuJu as a tool to help them do that. One of the big things they come up against is the general resistance some people may have, and it may be because of their cultural background, or it may be because of how they were raised, or the experiences they've had in the past, and they sort of resist this idea of appreciation altogether. I wanted to know if you've had any experiences with people where you felt there was that resistance at first to be more appreciative, and if you have, how you've overcome that resistance in the past, how you've gotten people on board with this idea and helped them change their perspective around it.
I don't know. I don't know. Don't employ people that aren't appreciative. It's probably a bit of advice. And have it in your questionnaires through the interviewing process. I think what people do is that when they go through an interviewing process of looking for their new additions to their teams, they might follow just a standard set format. I think you've got to write your own questions around who your business is and what's important, and ask that question. And if someone can't explain to you what appreciation means, or at what point in their life does that apply and how does it feel, you might find that's going to be a missing piece within the day. But we're seeing people a lot more emotionally open. So I haven't had a cultural issue. I haven't had a cultural issue or disconnect around the ability from people's different backgrounds to feel that way. Appreciation is universal. There's no doubt about that. I've had, there was this beautiful woman, that set an extraordinary example within the organisation. She was consistently appreciative, and she went out of her way to always show people that, with little notes, with little ways of a smile, little ways of offering them something when they least expect it. And she just had a natural ability to do that. And whenever you walk into an office, no matter how you feel, smile. I promise you it'll change people's days, and it'll change your day, because the response and the way you'll come back, and you'll instantly get to a better place. And that applies itself also for the way you engage. Always being kind and always being appreciative is going to deliver you nothing but the right outcome. So if you see people in your organisation that are resistant or have an inability because of, for whatever reason, it might be a mental health issue, it might be whatever it might be, put more focus on that. Put more focus on that person. Help engage them more within the business. Help them feel more involved and important. And often people that are resistant to appreciation don't feel appreciated, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Just recently reading a book, Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, and just talking about a story around how cultural differences do really make an impact. And for example, the fact that in Asian language, mainly Chinese and Japanese and Korean, their numbers, how they say the numbers are shorter, which means they can remember more numbers in a sequence, which makes them better. Like, it's easier to do math for them over time, and which makes a huge difference, and that's what, there's that stereotype. But also, so there's all of these little ingrained things sometimes, and I just wanted to see and see your perspective on that.
Cultures have different impacts too. So the person I was referring to before was an Asian woman, and she had the most beautiful nature and the most beautiful heart, because cultures come from different places and having different philosophies and beliefs. So she taught us a lot about that purely by her own experiences.
I think that's one of the beautiful things about these different cultures, as well as you said, appreciation is quite universal, but there are different ways to show it. And I love seeing the different people bringing their little way of doing it, and it really inspires you to think differently about things.
Yeah, I mean, Sumin did it with beautiful little notes around the offices. Other cultures, Australian culture will be a pat on the back and thanks, mate. Yeah. It'll be very different.
Yeah.
You know? To your partners, you might take home a bunch of flowers.
Exactly.
Make sure you all do that.
So I think there is something really valuable for anyone who is having this challenge, is to, one, actually take some of these questions, if you like, and apply them in your interview process to help get the right people in. But secondly, also focus on those people who you think might be having that resistance, and just show them the love. Just appreciate them a bit more, smile, and you'll start seeing slow changes bit by bit.
And if you don't, well, they're not culturally meant to fit. So
that's also that. Then you'll at least know and be sure of that.
That's correct. Yeah.
We're almost at the end here of the interview. We've gotten through a lot, actually. Thank you for sharing so far.
You're welcome.
I'd like to finish with a couple more personal questions that feel free to share, or to say you wouldn't like to share if you don't want to. Who is someone you constantly find yourself appreciating in your life? Someone that's always there for you when you might expect it or don't expect it?
I don't tell them enough. But the people that are the greatest supports in my life. So my team members, my family, and those that I love, my friends. And I think the greatest issue we have, I think, is that we don't share with the ones that we're most appreciative of enough. And the only way you can strengthen that relationship by doing that.
Interesting. Okay. So part of appreciation is expressing it. The other part that I've found that is important is the actual attitude and mindset that comes with it. You have to see the opportunities to appreciate. You have to remind yourself. Do you have, or do you use any practices or tools to cultivate that mindset in your own life, and be it in the mornings, in the evenings, maybe at lunch, whatever it might be?
Yeah, not enough. I have many tools, and I have a whole big bag full of them, and I probably don't open that bag enough, like most people. But I'll give you an example. This morning I woke up at 5 o'clock, and I woke up feeling stressed about my day. I had a lot on and many things to address, and I tend to use YouTube and go to what emotion I feel at that moment to meditate for a short period of time. That sometimes does not, but I did that this morning. In fact, what was my changing point of my mindset coming to work this morning? And again, remembering coming to work, when you come to an environment, not work, when you come to an environment every day to see people, bring the best of you, and you'll get the best from them. And therefore that, a good friend of mine has a saying called, the better it gets, the better it gets. It's perpetual. All right, so everything grows. Greatness grows greatness, and so it goes. But this morning I was driving to work. I was feeling actually a little bit sorry for myself about something, and I gave myself a mental slap. And in that moment, I said to myself, "What are you grateful for, Jode?" And instantly, I pulled 5-10 things that I'm really grateful for, and my emotion went from that to that instantly. And I think the practice of that mindfulness and that positive thinking is the critical piece, and it's about knowing to grab that and change that mindset. Now you're not gonna always be able to do it instantly, but allow yourself the space. And another thing, someone very dear said to me, which has really helped, take 5 seconds to take 2 minutes. So if you're not feeling too good, if you're under pressure, or if you're not feeling appreciative, or if you're in a situation that's not the best, just take 5 seconds just to stop and give yourself 2 minutes. And you'd be surprised how long 2 minutes can be. So when you've got to think about the one thing. So those sort of techniques and tools really help.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones. I have a daily gratitude practice, and it definitely makes a difference every time. Sometimes I forget to do it for a couple of days, and I can see just how my attitude slightly switches and things start pissing me off more. I get more annoyed. So it's often little things that can make a big difference.
You know what, if you find yourself not in that mind space more often than you are, set yourself an alarm every hour. And let that alarm say, be grateful, be thankful, what are you thankful for? Whatever you want the words to say, set that alarm every hour, and I can promise you it'll train you within a week to think differently and make those changes.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of great tools out there, things like Headspace or the Waking Up app to actually learn how to meditate without having to, go to India or the Himalayas or even leave your house, right? You can do it in your bed. So there's a lot of things out there. YouTube is great. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Yeah. So there's no reason to not do it. It's often just reminding yourself to do it. Yeah. So before I get to my last question, where can people find out more about you, your business, and your journey? Where would you point them to?
Me and my journey. So there's a number of locations that's documented, but on my company website's liferesolutions.com.au. Though there's more websites called jodiebrenton.com.au or jodiebrenton.me. They talk more about who I am and what I've created. In fact, I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to sit here and talk about things that are actually meaningful to me and be able to share that with people. And, and I encourage people to use the online space to dialogue like this more often. But ultimately for me, it's the online presence is, if you Googled my name, you'd find a lot of information about myself.
Awesome. Thank you. So I've got one more thing, and feel completely free to say that you don't want to do this, but is there someone out there that you should have appreciated a while ago but didn't get the chance to? And do you want to tell them now? And what we'll do is we'll send them this clip, and you can then just send that to them personally, or I can send it to them as a way of showing your appreciation.
It's really interesting. I guess there's a few people, because I've been, and there's a couple of people. I don't believe that anybody deliberately goes out to hurt anybody. I don't, but generally, 99.9% of the population are good by nature. I go from the positive. I don't believe that they do. And circumstance is what shifts things. And it's not appreciating people in those moments when you should have appreciated them. Or it's not showing them the respect in a time when they didn't feel valued or deserved. If I was to share that with anybody, I guess for me it'd be someone that I offer forgiveness to, and I offer words of asking them that everything's okay and the appreciation for what they offer them. For me, that person's Alistair Way. That's what I believe. And we're all part of one another's lives for a reason, and no matter where a relationship goes to or what it looks like, I'm always a great believer in everybody has a part to play. I don't believe you can blame a person for something. Everybody has a part, and we need to reflect upon our parts in that, and we need to always let people know that appreciation and forgiveness and apologies are always there in the back of our minds, because good people do generally feel that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. We'll figure out how we'll send that to them. Jodie, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. I've had the opportunity to work with you. I've been able to relate and resonate with a lot of things. One of the things you said is the intention always matters, and trying. I definitely know that is true. To anyone who's out there and wants to find out more about Jodie, I'm sure you can also find her on LinkedIn and connect with her there if you have any questions.
Absolutely.
So I hope you got something out of it. This is the very first episode of Closing the Gap, and I hope to bring you many more. Jodie, once again, thank you very much for taking the time on a Friday afternoon to be here with me.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.